5 Live Formula One.
Good morning and welcome back to the Red Bull Ring, round 8 of the Formula One World Championship here in Spielberg. Ahead of us then, one final practice session before qualifying later on this afternoon. And Mercedes looked rapid over one lap on Friday's run. Kimi Antonelli setting the pace. McLaren, though, looked like they could be the next best contender. Ferrari and Red Bull work to do, and with temperatures once again scorching, it's a crucial final session before Power Hour later on today. So to guide you through all of it is myself, Harry Benjamin, up in the commentary box. Alongside me is the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson and multiple Formula E race winner Sam Bird. Good morning, gents. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, everybody.
How are we?
Very well.
Enjoying the Red Bull Ring and all it has to offer in Austria?
Of course. You know what, this is a track that I really enjoy, qualifying day especially, because we normally get a very tight qualifying round here, don't we?
We do. I mean, it's such a short lap. And we were arguing yesterday that there are technically 10 turns, but there aren't really.
No, exactly. There's 4 major braking points in this circuit. Very tight in terms of lap time, very short lap. And the championship right now, with the pace of the cars, is nicely poised. I feel like at the beginning of the season we had Mercedes that were just completely dominant, but people are starting to creep towards them. And obviously last time out we saw Lewis Hamilton win for Ferrari for the first time, and they're bringing upgrades, McLaren are bringing upgrades, so it's quite exciting now. Yeah,
I mean, we haven't really spoken to you in a little while. You've been
you haven't
busy.
had me back.
No, well, I think you've had a fairly busy life off the track, haven't you?
I have indeed, yeah.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
With your newborn son.
Yeah, little Freddie.
And racing driver in the works?
Let's hope so. Fingers crossed.
A Ferrari driver of the future, but Ferrari driver right now, Lewis Hamilton. What did you take from Barcelona and just that landmark day for Lewis?
As a racing fan and as somebody that has worked with Lewis previously when he was at Mercedes, and it's just somebody that enjoys Formula One, what a day that was. What a historic day for him to win with Ferrari, for him to win his first time in a few seasons now, to get that monkey off his back. That was tremendous.
And do you think this is now Lewis and Ferrari almost announcing themselves in championship contention, second in the Drivers' Championship?
I think it's still too early to say. I think it's too early. I would love
to listened to our podcast yesterday.
Unfortunately I didn't. I was too busy.
Rude.
But I think it's too early. I think we need to see them have a good race this weekend and then continue good form. I don't want to say that they are in contention just yet. For now, it's still very much in the hands of Mercedes.
You see, Harry, wise words. Sam, he did words in different order, but it was basically the point I was making yesterday. Sam was all keen to label Hamilton as a title contender yesterday, and Abbey Eaton was not going there either. And I made the same point as you. They had a win at a particular kind of circuit. There's 3 power-sensitive circuits coming up, including this one, Silverstone, and then Spa after that. If they can be competitive on those, then absolutely. But what was interesting about yesterday is that Ferrari didn't look that competitive, but Mercedes, who were the definite pace setters, with McLaren very close, especially on race pace, they believe that that's not accurate. They believe Ferrari were hiding their true potential and that they didn't have the new power unit that they've got this weekend. The developed power unit turned up as much as they could have done, and both them and McLaren think Ferrari will be in the picture today. And if that's true, then we can start talking about Hamilton as a title contender.
Yeah, you look at Barcelona and Lewis's form actually in free practices, especially on the Friday in Barcelona, and he was a good half second off the pace. It was only really going into qualifying where he took himself away from the paddock, went back to his motorhome, had a long hard think about it, went into qualifying and then delivered. So look, it's not a done deal yet that Mercedes and McLaren are going to be faster. Ferrari could pull some pace out of the bag, but certainly right now you would say that this weekend McLaren and Mercedes look that little bit quicker.
Yeah, and beautiful conditions greeting them For Saturday in the Styrian Hills, nestled is the Red Bull Ring racetrack, one of the shortest on the calendar, 10 corners, just over 4.3 kilometres in length. And we are going to get a bit of action early doors, because normally final practice, this is the session where we don't usually see a flurry of activity out on track straight away, as the green light comes on at the end of the pit lane and Cadillac are being sent straight out there, and it will be Sergio Perez. Lots of issues for both Cadillacs yesterday. They brought a big upgrade this weekend, but electronic issues for Sergio Perez really curtailed his running in FP2 and FP1, so he's straight out on the circuit.
Yes, I was going to say the same, Harry. Perez basically got no miles yesterday because the same issue hit him in both sessions, even though they changed the electronics parts that they believed were at fault after the first session. So they've obviously had to do a lot of work overnight to see if they can make that car work. Different issues for Valtteri Bottas in the Cadillac. He had they called it overheating, Cadillac, but what happened was it looked like something had broken, because the T-tray, which is the sort of most forward part of the floor, was dragging on the track and sparking really dramatically, but it ended Bottas' second session, so he missed half of that session as well. So not a great day for Formula 1's newest team. They're not Formula 1's slowest team though. The slowest team is Aston Martin, which the TV is showing pictures of briefly at the moment with Fernando Alonso's car in the garage. Aston Martin are the only team really who've not been bringing regular upgrades. In fact, they've not really brought any upgrades. They've taken a completely different strategy to that, and they're bringing what's effectively a new car, or they're trying to play it down a little bit on those terms, but a massive, or what they hope will be a massive aerodynamic change for the Belgian Grand Prix. Maybe even an engine upgrade at the same time, but maybe a bit later. And that's why they've fallen behind, because they're sort of staying still while everybody else is moving forward.
What do you think, Benny, to Cadillac's first sort of third of the season, their first year in Formula One? We haven't seen brand new teams in Formula One come along too often. Obviously we saw Haas come in, what was that, 2016? Before that we had the introduction of 3 teams in 2010. But where would you put this as a start for them?
Well, I'm really conflicted on it. They're doing a really good job, Cadillac themselves, of spinning it as, we're just aiming for respectability, and of course we're going to be last, and it's such a mountain for us to climb. And in many ways it has been a mountain, because obviously they had to set the team up before they even knew they had an entry, and of course that's not easy to set up a Formula 1 team, and they're working in suboptimal circumstances at the moment. They're building a new factory in Fishers in Indiana. The TWG group, which owns this team, which I called it Andretti for a minute, it was Andretti when it first started, it's now Cadillac, or branded as Cadillac, but they're working out of 7 separate buildings at Silverstone Park, just across the way from Aston Martin's gleaming new factory. So on that level you can argue that they've done a solid job. On the other hand, it's a new team, but it's full of experienced Formula 1 personnel. Pat Simmons has a sort of, I'm not quite even sure what Pat Simmons' job title is, but he's got a very senior technical job title. He, of course, has won world championships with Benetton and Renault. He's worked at Williams, he's worked at Formula One. The chief technical officer is Nick Chester, who's also ex-Renault. Very, very highly regarded people. And the team's full of people like that. So when you look at it like that, they should be doing better, you could argue. They're 3.5 seconds off the pace. And even though Aston Martin have started to slip backwards, on average pace, Aston Martin is still quicker than Cadillac. And just to put 3.5 seconds off the pace into some kind of context, apart from Aston Martin, the next slowest car is the Williams, who are having a terrible season. They're 2.1 seconds off the pace. So Cadillac are 1.5 seconds a lap slower than the next slowest team that's not in a world of pain. I don't think that's good enough. So there's 2 ways of looking at it, and I can't quite make my mind up which is the right way.
I think I look at it the other way, because, I mean, Bird, you bring up the point about Haas. You know, when they came in, sorry, Sam, it's been a while. I think we have 2 Sams working on the team now, so you've got to be Bird. When Haas came in, they use the opportunity to buy as many parts from Ferrari as possible. So I feel like the comparison is you can't compare in that respect, because Cadillac have literally started from scratch.
I accept that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think when the fact that they are only 1.5 seconds off of Williams, who has been in this sport a long old time and has been building up to this regulation set for a long while, it's a failure on Williams' side completely. But I actually, look, I think a lot hinges on how well this upgrade this weekend goes for Cadillac to see where they truly stand. But I think overall it's a solid job so far from Cadillac.
I think solid is right, and I think it depends. They wanted to sort of just get going, sort of get their feet under the table sort of thing, and in that sense they've done it. But they've left themselves a lot of ground to make up. And someone I was talking to a Grand Prix or two ago, a senior person in another team, they kind of rather disparagingly referred to the Cadillac by saying it looks like a show car, which is, you know, a show car is when you see a Formula 1 car on a stand at some kind of event, it's not a real car.
It's got no downforce.
It's got, yeah, exactly. It's got old parts on it. It's just kind of like a representation of a Formula 1 car. And that was quite a disparaging way to refer to the Cadillac, but I completely understood what this person meant, because that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like it lacks sophistication compared to all the other cars, even the Aston Martin, even though Aston Martin are struggling. So I think it's a tough one. But what they've said, Cadillac, to be fair to them, is they feel that they should be judged by their ability to progress through the course of the season and into next year. At the moment, it's early days still, because what is this, race 8 or something? We're only a third of the way through what's expected to be the season, although we don't actually know how many races there are going to be yet. They haven't made that progress yet. Let's see if they can actually. So if they fail on their own terms, which is we'll start at the back but we'll progress through the season, then I think you can look at it you can take the more negative slant, if you like, rather than the more positive slant, which is the one they're trying to spin.
What do you think, Sam?
I'm conflicted as well, to be honest. I completely get where Benny's coming from with his comments. Yes, it does look like a show car. I would agree with that. Yes, they're miles off the pace, and they've got some very experienced people there. But then part of me thinks, well, it is the beginning of their journey in Formula 1, and they've been just quietly going about their business. They have been finishing races, which is a positive. You know, that there are positives to take from it. I think by the end of the year, though, they need to have scored some points. You know, I think that for them has got to be the goal, not just finishing racing. They have to come in the top 10 at some point to say that the season was a success.
Well, of course, they should have a point on the board already, but Sergio Perez, as he gets all over the curb in the run up the hill to turn 3, locks up for good measure and runs wide, as still the only car out on track is Sergio Perez, and that's not going to do his medium tyres any good at all.
Now, the reason why that's happened is he's obviously trying to open up turn 1 as much as possible, and in doing so, the bottom of the car, the plank, is basically on top of those serrated curbs, forcing the car up in the air. The tyre then is not completely into the ground, and that's why you saw that front lockup. And that is now a very damaged front left-hand tyre, so he'll have to... well, he's carrying on, but that's a very second-hand tyre. You can even see it as it rotates. There's an area there that looks very, very flat.
Yeah, I think he'll just be happy that he's going round and round and not having to pull up to the side of the road for the time being. But he is going again. They should have a point, courtesy of Monaco, but Perez decided to line up in the wrong grid box twice, and so he's only got himself to blame on that front. But they were only in that position because they actually got decent reliability, because they were there at the end of a race of attrition, and Cadillac have actually put in some of the highest mileage up on the grid. You know, they were there right at the start of the shakedown in Barcelona when we first got these cars. But I do agree. I think you've got to judge them. You fully judge them at the end of the year, and I think they will. I think they will treat the points. They will visit the points again, but it will have to be another race of attrition, which is what we're seeing more and more of, though, in this new era. Reliability is a huge issue now.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that's the point. You just summed it up. It will be a race of attrition, and I mean, they've got the point I was trying to make about the pace deficit is it's so big, and Aston Martin have also got the similar pace deficit, but they've got what they hope is a well over 1 second upgrade package, maybe even more coming, plus a new engine, hopefully, and Adrian Newey designing the car, none of which Cadillac have. So let's see. Let's see.
They have got this weekend. They are trialling new side pod, engine cover, cooling loops, mirror, the roll hoop leg fairings, the floor diffuser, and a beam.
Well, let's see where they qualify.
Exactly. Yeah. So this will be a big indicator of how they do. Also, assuming obviously Ferrari bought this new engine upgrade, that will eventually get rolled out to the other Ferrari customer teams. One of them is Cadillac. So that should hopefully also bring a benefit further down the line. Ferrari running that this weekend for the first time, courtesy of the additional development upgrade opportunities and receiving a token. Red Bull, the only team not to receive any kind of additional help with the engine for now. They are the benchmark best engine according to the FIA. 49 minutes, 22, 21, 20 seconds remaining of the final practice session. A few more cars joining Sergio Perez out there now in the form of Franco Colapinto in the Alpine, Nico Hülkenberg's Audi, and Isaac Hadjar in the Red Bull. And it was Red Bull, actually, Sam, yesterday, which were really struggling to, consistently put in some good laps. Max Verstappen showed flashes of pace, as he always does, but they were struggling with a bit of turbo lag out of the corners and an overall grip here.
Yeah, that turbo lag seemed to really hurt them yesterday, didn't it? And especially on this circuit, you want to come out the corners and then you're hard back on the throttle, out of one, down towards the next braking zone. That's the last thing that you would probably want around this track.
Certainly is. We're looking at Franco Colapinto at the moment, the Alpine driver, who is off the back of consecutive point-scoring finishes and actually out-qualified Gasly in 3 of the last 4 races. But it's Pierre Gasly who is putting in another top job this season so far. Points in every single round for the Alpine team, who is night and day compared to where they were last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And nice to see him get his podium in Monaco, wasn't it?
Yes. Let's see. That is still...
that's a whole other debate, Sam, that is. Was it nice to see him get it or not? I don't know.
A can of worms here.
Yeah, just a bit.
Okay.
I mean, just briefly, what I mean by that is I think in terms of natural justice, he didn't deserve that podium. So in terms of natural justice, he shouldn't have it. Yes, he was wrong to get the penalty because he didn't speed in the pit lane, but it was also wrong for Oscar Piastri to serve a penalty and for George Russell to be given a penalty, which then led to a cascade of nightmarishness for Russell. So the actual fair finishing order there was Russell, Piastri, and then either Gasly or Hadjar. I can't remember which way around they're meant to be, but it's not a podium that he merits, is what I'm trying to say.
And that is still subject to further hearings as well, the outcome of that race. A couple of the teams putting in bids to take a look at that. Mercedes, though, have withdrawn their bid to try and look at getting the results overturned, but I think it is a bit of a can of worms, but we'll come back to it.
Well, McLaren and Red Bull have actually taken it to the course of appeal, so
we'll keep a track of that as and when there are updates. Of course, Andrew will be first on the case on the BBC Sport website. Isaac Hadjar, fastest of anybody through the first and the middle sector, crosses the line now and goes top on the hard tyre with a 1:09.230. Hülkenberg a few tenths back, but on the soft tyre for Audi. Same for Colapinto on the soft in third, and Perez was out there and he's back out there now on the medium tyre. I suppose one thing, Sam, that you always get from this Austrian track is the beauty and the setup of it, nestled in the mountains, but it's actually the altitude and the elevation change. It's quite something, which I don't think, if you're watching and seeing a TV screen, it's a hill going up to turn 3, but I don't think the cameras quite do it justice.
No, absolutely. When you're there, if you try and run this circuit, you'll be very much out of breath by the time you get towards turn 3. It really does climb quite steeply. Uphill braking, which is where Sergio Perez is now, as he powers out of the corner in his Cadillac. He's gone green in sector 1, still on that set of medium compound tyres. But you're right, there is a lot of undulation and elevation change at this track.
Yeah, it's 660 metres above sea level, and you get about a 65 metre elevation change across the whole lap, particularly as you head up the hill towards turn 3, and then in the middle sector it almost becomes a bit of a roller coaster ride as you head downhill and start to twist your your way through the technical middle sector where Perez feeds out of now, coming through turn 7 and 8. Hajar reporting on the radio that the balance feels pretty nice. Improvements on yesterday.
That's the first positive Red Bull driver comment we've been exposed to this weekend so far, so that's encouraging for them. They've got a big upgrade package, Red Bull, on that car this weekend. New floor, new bodywork, so they're hoping, Laura Mekies, the team principal, was saying yesterday, it might bring them to within 3/10 or so of the battle at the front of the field, which at the moment they've been on average something like 6 or 7 tenths behind the pace, which is obviously not where Red Bull expect to be.
8 cars out on track now, with the 2 Aston Martins also out there, along with Lando Norris in the McLaren and Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari. Let's just bring you up to speed with how the Drivers' Championship is looking coming into round 8. Kimi Antonelli leads the way with 156 points. He is 41 clear of Lewis Hamilton, who sits second. In third, a further 9 points back, is George Russell, with Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris rounding out the top 5. And over in the Constructors, Mercedes lead the way, sitting with 262 points. They are 72 ahead of Ferrari. McLaren third, with Red Bull and Alpine at the top 5. Battle in the midfield's quite close. Racing Bulls, Haas and Williams all fighting it out for points, along with Audi. Aston Martin, a point on the board for them, but still very much looking like the slowest team out there. Does see them sit ahead of Cadillac, still yet to get off the mark, and last of the 11 teams in the field, with just under 45 minutes remaining as we start to see the lap times improve. Lando Norris, the reigning world champion, out there on the soft tyre, fastest of anybody in the first sector. And having a look at the long run pace yesterday, Sam, actually McLaren looking in fairly good nick. Maybe this could be their best challenge yet to Mercedes.
I think Benny's the one to ask about long run pace, to be honest, not me.
They looked, well, on the actual numbers, they're behind Mercedes on the long runs, but if you just take the same length of run, they were quicker by a small, very, very small margin. Norris was quicker anyway than the 2 Mercedes. It's like hundredths in it. So on the Mercedes pace, essentially, we can call that, if you take them just lap for lap. But I don't think they expect to be beating Mercedes. And let's not forget, there's one race this year where they were actually competitive and should have won, really, which was Miami. So they've done it once this year. Usually the hot weather helps them, although Andrea Stella, the team principal, has been saying recently that he thinks they've lost their tyre degradation advantage that they had in the last 2 or 3 years this year for some reason, which they're going to try and get that back. He thinks they're just short of downforce, basically, but downforce is not the biggest thing at this track, so let's see how McLaren get on in the heat and speed.
McLaren, though, historically, have been very, very good when it comes to upgrades and just progressing their car for the year. The same can't be said over probably the last decade of Ferrari, can it?
No, exactly.
You know, Ferrari, there's been times over the last decade where they've actually started the season with, dare I say it, one of, if not the fastest car, and they seem to go backwards in comparison to the competition. So I'm actually really interested to see how these new upgrades develop within the Ferrari camp, and can they continue to kind of chip away at Mercedes and at McLaren.
Do you think there's been a bit of a change in culture at Ferrari with Lewis Hamilton joining, him sort of getting the right team around him, new race engineer for this year, bringing innovative upgrades, you know, that rear wing that goes completely upside down? They were the first to launch out with that big upgrade last time out, first with an engine upgrade pretty much. Feels like they are evolving.
But it'll take time. I don't think it's a quick fix. This is something that's been inherent within Maranello for since pretty much since Ross Brawn left. I would say that they haven't found that spark to continue the development race, and it's certainly not been their strong point.
It's a culture. Fred Vasseur, the team principal, since 2023, what is it, has been trying to instill in Ferrari, so it's not just down to Hamilton. Hamilton's been certainly trying to force his own changes in certain ways, particularly over the way the brakes work, for example. Here's Norris's radio.
Left mirrors completely broken. So I don't know if we have a replacement or how many spares we got, but just clean it out.
Lando Norris with a broken mirror. There's a few mirror complaints from yesterday on several of the drivers. Oh, as Alex Albon nearly loses the back end of his Williams coming around the final corner. Holds it though.
Yeah, and that's because of the vibrations going over the curbs. The curbs here are very, very aggressive. This track is a bit of a car beater, and normally, sometimes the first thing to break is actually the mirrors.
I always wonder how useful they actually are though. Like when you're going at a couple hundred miles an hour, surely they're not as useful as your road going mirror.
No, they're not. But they do give you the information that you need. You just need to see where the car is, which side they would be looking to attack you from, and you get used to them. You get to judge distances and car positioning through the mirrors.
This is the sound of Oscar Piastri on his first quick lap. His teammate currently has the benchmark time of 1:07.8, 3/10 clear of Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. George Russell third, Gasly's fourth ahead of Hadjar, Hulkenberg, Leclerc, Bortoletto, Lawson and Lindblad the top 10. Albon's 11th ahead of his teammate Sainz, Colapinto 13th, Ocon, Perez, Stroll and Alonso the top 18. Bottas has been out there but hasn't put a lap time on the board yet, running wide on a few occasions. Antonelli is out there now coming through the first sector. Piastri has gone fastest of anybody in the final sector and just by half a tenth of a second misses out on pipping his teammate. Verstappen also just starting a lap now as we hear the sounds of Kimi Antonelli heading downhill towards turn 4.
Makes the apex nicely. Can he pick up the power? A little bit late to power for Antonelli. I don't know if it cost him too much time. What's he like through the sweeping left-hander? He's a tenth and a half up at the moment on Lando Norris. Uses all the track available to him on the exit there. Coming towards the end of the lap, very good on the power out of that section. Now we've got the fast second last corner. This will be down a gear. Just one, down 2. Oh, right up against the gravel there. Slings it into the final corner. And yeah, that's 2.5 down, nearly 3/10 clear. In fact, yeah, 2.99. Yeah, 3/10 clear.
Round it up, yeah.
Yeah, let's round it up. 3/10 clear of Lando Norris in the McLaren. So again, advantage at this stage to Antonelli and to Mercedes.
Yeah, he looks super confident on that lap and has done since, well, straight out the blocks on Friday morning. Let's see what Max Verstappen does on the soft tyre as well. He's got one more corner to go. Hear him on the radio.
I have constant weird interference. I need to change my earbuds and it's the balaclava. It's something really off.
So it's constant interference, earplugs, balaclava needs changing. He pops it up to second, just over 2.5 tenths adrift of Antonelli.
Yeah, there's something that you can get sometimes in single-seater. So you obviously have the radio kit in the car. You're then plugged in via the balaclava. And sometimes you can get some weird noises and sort of static within the radio at all times. It can be really, really off-putting. I've had it before in Formula E. It's not nice.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday he had an issue, or one of the issues he had was with his seating position for free practice 2. Felt like he was lying down too much, essentially. Have you ever had that, where it's just a little bit off? Let's hear Piastri first.
My seat behind my left shoulder. There's something stuck behind my shoulder blades.
Copy. We're fussy as drivers, aren't we? We're fussy people.
Strangely high number of complaints from drivers this morning. Not this morning, in Austria this afternoon.
Well, these seats, they're designed and purpose-built for you and you alone. So before the start of the season, a driver will go in. You'll have basically a seat fitting where a seat technician will mould you into the car, and then you'll have your own bespoke seat. But through the course of a season, depending on your training, your diet, you grow and you shrink as a human being. And there are times where the seat might feel quite tight. There's times where the seat might feel quite loose, completely dependent on what you're doing, what you've eaten, also the environment that you're in. When you go to a hotter country, in a hole, you tend to swell slightly. Your body tends to get slightly larger. In cooler temperatures, you tend to shrink. So all these things can add up to the driver feeling a little bit uncomfortable at times. And it is very, very hot out in Austria.
Yeah, air temperature 31.6 degrees, track temperature 50.8 degrees as Hamilton now comes across the line. Fastest of anybody in the first sector, but then gradually losing time across the lap. Ends up in third, 2.5 tenths down.
Well, the Mercedes just looks like it's able to pick up the throttle, or as we see Carlos Sainz there, the Williams looking very unhappy on turn-in of the high-speed corners and had to use the runoff there at the second last corner. But the Mercedes looks very, very good on throttle pickup outer corners and its ability to continue to rotate. Oh, and there's Lewis Hamilton. That's where the time was. Just an oversteer on entry.
Yeah, and his teammate Charles Leclerc, meanwhile, crosses the line. Bit more like it. Still down on Antonelli, 10th.5 adrift, but Leclerc puts his Ferrari into second.
But you'd like to think that Lewis has got that in the pocket to be at least as quick as Charles Leclerc, considering the oversteer he had up at turn 3.
New engine upgrade for this weekend at Ferrari off the back of a huge upgrade on the chassis and aerodynamic side in Barcelona. Perhaps just not quite showing their full hand in yesterday's running, but getting dialed in certainly this morning. Indeed, everybody now turning up the wick just to get an ear in before we head to qualifying later on this afternoon. Bortoleto in the Audi, notorious for having a big turbo. Will that benefit them around this track? Pops himself up into the top 10, just ahead of his teammate.
It's interesting, Harry, that they're all running on the soft tyre at this point, or nearly all running on the soft tyre. I exclude the Cadillacs and the Aston Martins from that. Because normally at this point in third practice they'd be running on a medium or a hard. That suggests they're saving the mediums and the hards for a race, which might be more than one stop. That'd be my prediction at the moment.
Yeah, softest in the range for the tyres that Pirelli have brought this weekend. C3 hard, C4 medium, C5 soft. So thermal degradation will be, I think, the talk of the town when we get to Sunday. Last year, Lando Norris's winning strategy started on the mediums, went to about lap 20, then switched to the hard, and then switched to the medium again for the last 20 laps. And I think, like in Barcelona, we might well see some multiple stops.
Which I love. I do like a race where it's got more than one stop.
And there is a last check at the weather. There is a bit of a rain threat for Sunday as well, though. So that could really change things, with the hot weather causing some turbulent weather in the mountains in Austria. Right, just over half an hour left to run of practice 3. Antonelli sits at the top of the times, a 1:07.5, a 10th.5 clear of the Ferrari of Leclerc and his teammate George Russell in third, Hamilton fourth, Verstappen the top 5. Then comes Norris and Piastri 6th and 7th. Gasly, Hadjar and Bortoleto round out the top 10. Hulkenberg's 11th ahead of Behrman. Then come the two Racing Bulls, Lawson ahead of Lindblad, Albon, Ocon, Sainz, Colapinto the top 18. Then it's Bottas, Perez, Stroll and Alonso. The bottom 4 drivers all in the pits at the moment. The sound you're listening to is Max Verstappen, down on time in the first sector, fastest of anybody through the middle sector.
And only 3,000ths down on Kimi Antonelli at the moment. Slings it into the final corner. What's he got on the exit, Harry? And it takes him up to, only P4, so lost just over 2/10 of a second in that final sector.
Now that is his second run, isn't it, on the soft tyre? So interesting to see that fastest middle sector, but then dropping away from him in the final few corners. Be interesting to see when it gets to qualifying, particularly Q3. Is it just one run you've got to try and make it count, or whether you're going to have to try and eke something out of it or hold back on a second set?
We'll find out in a couple of hours, won't we?
We certainly will.
Everybody
hear it all.
Tuning in.
Hear it all on 5 Live, Sam.
Absolutely.
We'll have qualifying for you at just before 3 o'clock this afternoon, with the green light coming on for Q1 on the hour.
You've been busy while I've been away as well, haven't you, Harry? You've got your ARDS licence now.
Yes, I have.
You could potentially be a racing driver, even with those clown feet.
Even with those clown feet. Certain cars, I think, are ruled out, to be honest. Formula One, I'm still trying, but ultimately I don't think many designers want me in their car, as Russell improves, fastest of anybody in the final sector, just 17 thousandths of a second behind teammate Antonelli, so that's a bit more pleasing for Russell. Got my Motorsport UK Arts licence at Goodwood. And as we just hear George Russell heading up the hill towards turn 3, did he lose a bit of time here? It'll lock up, compromises him on the exit.
Really bad straight line braking on the front axle.
Well, so to end up only 17 thousandths of a second behind is actually fairly encouraging, considering that.
That looked really strange. Really, really strange into turn 3. It looked like he initially had a bad down change, and then it looked like the brake bias shot forwards mid to end of braking. So it looked a little bit bizarre, and it looked like it came from initially a bad down change, I think from 5th to 4th.
As we just saw Lando Norris as well in the same corner, not the same exact line, but running deep and having to take to the runoff area. He's having another go at it now.
Okay, so you're looking at GT cars, presumably.
I think so. Touring cars, maybe.
Touring cars?
My first target is the Goodwood Festival of Speed hill climb. So I'm trying to line up a few cars to drive up the hill there.
Yeah, you're not meant to be on the limits up there, mate.
Well,
not if you're not a racing driver, anyway.
it is technically a competition. There's a timer.
You know, there's only straw bales protecting the audience, right?
I'm fully aware. There's also a flint wall that you get pretty close to if you are ragging it.
Yeah, I don't want you to be hit. I don't think you want to be hitting that either.
No, I'm a slow and steady kind of guy, you know, but I just wanted the ability to be able to drive.
As Lando Norris goes up to 3rd and a 10th and a half off the Mercedes pair. That's exciting, Harry. I'm excited for you, mate.
Well, it's interesting. You've got to do a written test as well as doing an actual driving test on the track. I had to sit down and do an exam.
I'd fail that now.
Well, you have. The first part is all about the different flags in Formula One, and you have to get that 100%. Flags in motorsport, sorry, classic. You have to get that 100% correct, and know what the difference if there's a flag waving or flashing and the differences between that. There was one flag though that I've heard of, but I don't think I've ever seen it in practice. Code 60. Have you come across those?
Code 60. What does the flag
60
look like?
Well, it just says Code 60. That's all it is.
Okay.
Andrew?
So what is that?
So it's essentially, I mean, I'll have to double check this now. I've got it right in the exam. But it's essentially, I viewed it as a caution, slow down to 60 miles per hour, essentially a form of virtual safety car.
Okay, but firstly, we use kilometres an hour racing, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why,
so you got it wrong.
I did the test and
but also you don't have a speedo in your racing car, so how do you know how to do that?
Well, it depends what racing car.
Okay, but most racing cars don't have a speedo, right?
Well, I think if you're driving a GT car or
does your GT car have a speedo in it, Sam?
To be fair, I knew my speeds in the Ferrari when I raced for Ferrari. Okay. Yeah.
But it's basically a neutralization of the race. It's a pink flag with 60 in the middle, which was news to me. So that was my biggest learning curve, which I obviously learned for the test and then immediately forgot about. So there's something for you.
That's I've never heard of that either. You learn something new every day.
There you go.
It looks like the track's ramping up, Harry. Everybody's setting fast times now with 27.5 minutes to go. Kimi Antonelli now 2.5 tenths up through 2 sectors and looking to further establish himself at the top of the timesheets. Comes round the final corner any second now. Here he comes out of the final corner. What's he got? And yeah, 4 tenths clear at the top.
It's looking mighty for Kimi Antonelli, isn't it? Would have been a big point score for him last time out in Barcelona, bar the reliability issue that saw him pick up no points in the end and retire from the race. The man who leads the championship sitting pretty at the moment with a 4/10 gap to his teammate.
This is a question for Benny as well. So given the pace that we've seen from Antonelli this first third of the season, and seeing how he's raced really maturely and been able to win from different positions, do you think that it is his to lose now? I know that he's got a big lead, but Is it his to lose?
Well,
I think it's too early to say.
he would say it's not mine to lose. How can I lose something I haven't got? Because that was what happened in Monaco, which is quite interesting. George Russell arrived after his difficult weekend in Canada when he retired from the lead, saying it's Kimi's to lose now. Obviously, rather clumsily trying to put some psychological pressure on his teammate, and Antonelli just sort of brushed it off as an idea. And of course, you can relate it quite similarly to last year, can't you, when Oscar Piastri was in what appeared to be a commanding position and kind of fell apart a bit in the final third of the season. So it depends on how you want to phrase it, but he's definitely in a commanding position, and at the moment, every race he's driving in a very impressive way.
Yeah, it seems to me like George Russell just at the moment doesn't have an answer for Kimi Antonelli's pace.
I would agree with that. Russell's made it clear. Monaco was a very interesting weekend on a number of fronts, and one of them was that for the first time Russell admitted that he was struggling with the car. He's not happy with the balance. He wasn't happy with the balance yesterday either. Of course, he did put it on pole in Spain, and he got passed ultimately in the race by Russell. It turns out that Russell referred to a front wing problem on Thursday when he arrived in Austria. What he was talking about was that because of a problem with the equipment, Mercedes added too much front wing to his car with an adjustment at the final stop. He wanted more added, but they added more than they intended, so that would have given him oversteer for the final stint. So that does explain why he would be struggling in that final stint compared to Antonelli, or could explain why he was struggling compared to Antonelli in that final stint, because Antonelli passed him before he retired. He's looked. I think his change in performance from last year to this year has been one of the most impressive steps up that I've seen from any driver, I think. But for me, it's more that. You can't expect too much of someone in their first year, but to me it's more like this is the Antonelli that everybody talked about through his junior career, as opposed to last year, where in many ways, because people thought that he was an exceptional talent, potentially a generational talent, almost last year wasn't what you expected. You expected him to be better last year. So I think it's been Russell would say that he always knew Antonelli was quick, but I suspect it's put George Russell in a pretty uncomfortable place in that team this year, because Antonelli everything just looks so much under control for him. He just looks quick every time he goes out on track.
Well, how do you react, Sam, if you're George Russell to this? How do you go about
mentally? It's really challenging.
Yeah.
When you come across somebody that's quite a bit younger than you, much less experienced than you, yet they're able to get in the car, wring its neck and be 4/10 a lap quicker than you, it can be really, really demoralizing, and you can feel really isolated within the team. You start to question the team around you, or can do. You start to question yourself. You start to think that they might be getting preferential treatment, even if they're not. So you've got all sorts of demons going on inside your head. The ability to block all that noise out and to get on with your job and try and improve yourself, that takes a lot, I've got to say.
Do you look to leave?
I mean, that choice might not be his come the end of the season. Let's wait and see.
Well, right now, Mercedes and Toto Wolff, I think, would be grinning. 1 and 2 is all he can ask for.
Yeah, I mean, Russell spoke to the British media on Thursday. I wasn't there, I normally am. I had to miss it this time. And he was saying that he was 100% guaranteed to be at Mercedes next year on a contractual basis. He's talking there about performance clauses that are in the contract that he's obviously pretty clear he's going to satisfy this year, which is interesting. But I think we all know that contracts... I didn't get that right, did I? In Formula One, you can have a contract and it means you don't necessarily still stay at the team.
Can we clip that up?
We should do, shouldn't we? I'm so sorry. I overreached there, everybody. I'm so sorry about that.
Contracts aren't worth the paper they're printed on.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Max Verstappen is potentially free at the end of the year. I don't think Russell's necessarily going to be at Mercedes just because his contract says he will be. I'm not saying he won't be either. I'm just saying I don't think we can be definitive about anything yet. That's not how Formula One works.
The driver market this year, though, it could explode with just one move.
It could, or it could be really, really boring. It's going to be one or the other. It's going to be complete chaos or really dull. Because in theory, everyone's under contract apart from Fernando Alonso, pretty much. And he ain't going anywhere, I don't think, apart from retirement or staying at Aston Martin. But as you say, if Verstappen decides to leave Red Bull, then it's Armageddon.
Then it all explodes, doesn't it? Yeah, I mean, you've written a lot in the past, Benny, about Fernando Alonso, and you are a fan of his and his driving and his ability.
I don't like the word fan in the context of my position as
we're all fans of motorsport, aren't we? But that's what I mean. But where do you reckon his mindset is right now?
I don't know for sure, but my interpretation of what Alonso is saying is that I think he wants deep down to stay in F1. But I don't think he can stomach another year like this. So I think
4.3 seconds off.
I think he's looking for evidence that Aston Martin can improve, and that's why the upgrade I was talking about earlier is so important. It's important for the team because every year so far they've arrived with a car and the car's not progressed through the year, despite the fact that they brought upgrades to it that they thought were going to make it faster. So it's important on that basis. It's obviously important on a competitive basis because they're tragic at the moment, but it's important for Fernando Alonso because I think it will decide whether he wants to stay. It will be a large part of the decision as to whether he wants to stay in Formula One or not next year or go and race somewhere else. I hope he stays because he's obviously still very, very good.
You don't want to see anyone go out like this.
And I don't. It's not right that he is an all-time great of the sport. It's incredible what he's been able to achieve. His ability levels are stratospherically high, as you're well aware. Sammy's right up there in the discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
Greatest of all time, and the way he's been able to keep that competitiveness going as long as he has, not just in terms of age, but just in terms of commitment, is really remarkable. And it would be a shame for a driver of that magnitude to go out after a season like this.
Completely agree. You see him right now down in 22nd place, Stroll just ahead of him in 21st, and it is a bit of a sorry sight, isn't it? The Aston's so far off the pace, and you feel that when their car is so bad, you feel like he's not pushing himself like he does when the car is competitive. When that car is quick, or when it has been in the past, he finds another gear.
Well, his 2023 season was fantastic, wasn't it?
He finds another gear and he's able to drag extra out of himself. I feel like right now, it's not that he's going through the motions, but it doesn't really. If he puts in the best lap he can do, it's still.
He's even admitted it to me himself in an interview. He says you don't. It's not like you're not trying. You're trying your best when whatever you're doing, whatever position the car is. But when it's competitive, somehow you find something else within you. There's a new level. Everything takes on a new level of intensity, and but you see it with Lewis Hamilton's the same, isn't he? He was all over the place mentally last year, but you can just feel they ooze a different. There's a different sensitivity around them, and you feel it in their company. You see it when they're speaking, and I'm sure behind the scenes at the team when they're talking to the engineers and so on, it's exactly the same. There's a whole new, everything steps up a level, and I think the other thing is that drivers like that, and I think this is where Russell has slightly disappointed in a way this year. Drivers like Alonso and Hamilton and Verstappen, they're always on it, and they're never found short in any way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
they find themselves in competitive situations. They might be equal to somebody, but they're never beaten fundamentally. You know, there might be, and look at what happened to Alonso and Hamilton when they were together in 2007. Same number of wins, same number of points. So at the end of the season, Hamilton was classified ahead, sort of thing, but because it was on results countback, but essentially they were equal on average qualifying time, you know, and so on and so on and so on. And they're extraordinary, and they're just able to they're just able to produce things that other drivers are not able to produce.
Looking for his 433rd start in Formula One this weekend is Fernando Alonso at the age of 44, but Lewis Hamilton taking victory last night in Barcelona at 41 years of age, proving age no barrier once you get over 40. It was all quiet in the top 10, but we're now starting to see them peel back on track with 15 minutes and 47, 46, 45 seconds remaining.
Yep, new soft tyres for Lewis Hamilton, also new soft tyres on the Alpine, just leaving the pit lane now. So we're going to get a string of fast laps.
I cannot turn the car, so there is something wrong at the front.
Alonso there struggling with turning on the front end of his Aston Martin. He was out and he's now made it back to the pits. Before we get the next set of quick runs then, we'll see and hear Alonso coming into the pit lane. Antonelli and Russell currently fastest, but Antonelli 4/10 ahead of his teammate Russell. Leclerc, Verstappen, Piastri the top 5, Norris, Hamilton, Lawson, Gasly and Hadjar the top 10. Bortoletto and his Audi teammate Hülkenberg 11th and 12th, with Behrman, Lindblad and Colapinto the top 15, Albon, Ocon, Sainz, Bottas and Perez the top 20, with Stroll and Alonso, the two Aston Martins, bringing up the rear of the field.
So Fernando Alonso has given that feedback to his team. He's now being wheeled back into the pits. Now what will happen is he'll have more dialogue with his engineer and his data engineer to discuss, right, well, the turn-in's bad. What area of the corner is it bad? Is it aerodynamical? Is it mechanical? Is it early entry, mid-corner? Is it exit? Is it on throttle, off throttle? So to try and pinpoint exactly the area of the car that they need to now tweak and fine-tune in order to get that turn in a little bit better for him.
First laps then on the new set of boots for the top runners on the soft tyre. Antonelli and Verstappen both out there. Verstappen personal best through the first sector. Antonelli a little down on his own time through the first sector. Antonelli fastest at the moment of anybody through the first and middle sectors on his previous run on the soft tyre. Not quite matching that this time around.
No, he's a 10th and a half off his best, but the last sector looks particularly strong on this lap. Looks like he's really hustling in sector 3. Maybe this will go green or purple just for the final sector, and it does. Very solid final sector. You saw it wringing its neck through turn 7 and turn 8. Really, really on the limit of what the car could achieve through there.
Yeah, it certainly was. But quicker laps still to come. Norris, fastest of anybody through the middle sector. Hamilton through the first sector, fastest of anybody. It does feel like maybe Ferrari are just holding back slightly. Are they about to show us what they've got through the final corner for the reigning world champ? Fastest of anybody through the middle sector. Personal best in the first sector. Down on time in the final sector. Improves overall though and puts himself within 3/10.
Lando Norris got put off there, I feel, through turn 9 because there was a cloud of dust as one of the cars in front of him had obviously gone through the gravel on the exit of turn 9, and you just heard him have a little bit of a hesitation, and that lowered his minimum speed enough to cause a couple of tenths off in the final sector.
Hamilton's crossed the line, less than a tenth between himself and Antonelli.
And it's interesting that Hamilton's fastest in the first sector because, of course, that's where the straights are, or 2 of the 3 big straights, and Ferrari have their engine upgrade this weekend, and you wouldn't have expected the Ferrari to be fastest on the straights or in the straight-based sector in previous races.
Russell's just crossed the line, 3rd for the Brit. What's happened to Hülkenberg? He's found the gravel coming through turn 9 and got himself all crossed up.
And that was the gravel that we were speaking about with Lando Norris.
Yeah, leaving behind a plume of dust for Lando Norris to be greeted by afterwards. So not the ideal line for Hülkenberg there. Charles Leclerc, what happened to him on his lap? Up the hill at turn 3, outside left lockup. And that was the sound of it.
Yeah, he's bled off the brake quite nicely there in order to not have too bad a flat spot, but he would have taken some life out of those soft compound tyres for sure.
So I think those were significant first runs on the soft tyre, particularly for Hamilton. 77 thousandths of a second splitting him and Antonelli. Antonelli with the benchmark time of 1:07.1. Russell on his attempt just under 2/10 adrift of his teammate in third, with the McLaren of Lando Norris just peeling into the pits, but maybe losing a bit of time through distraction coming through the final two corners on his McLaren. Oscar Piastri is running a little bit later, out of sequence. He's on an outlap at the moment, so we'll see what the Australian has in the other McLaren in a couple of minutes' time, with 11 minutes on the dot remaining of free practice 3. It's Antonelli, Hamilton, Russell, Norris, then Verstappen, the top 5. Piastri, Leclerc's on an outlap now. Lawson, Gasly and Hadjar, the top 10. Hadjar out there, he is on the soft tyre now. We're going to look at Hadjar heading up the hill towards turn 3, and it's a classic case of not quite being able to get the turn in. The Racing Bulls ahead of him as well, maybe a cause for distraction, but small front right lock-up, and bleeds off the brakes enough to not cause too much damage to the front right tyre. But you do pick up an awful lot of dust and dirt as soon as you run off wide here, and it'll take you a few corners to just get your tyres clean and back up to speed again. Arvid Lindblad, we haven't really seen too much of the midfield runners so far, such as the competitiveness of the field, but it's actually looking fairly tight in that mid-pack between the likes of the Racing Bulls, the Audis, the Alpines as well. Lawson up in 8th at the moment, then Gasly, Bortoletto and Hulkenberg 11th and 12th, Colapinto just behind. We'll see what Lindblad has got through the final corner, the British rookie, who has raced here previously in the support categories across the line. And good lap from Lindblad, just behind his teammate. 9th place for the Racing Bulls driver. And for Lindblad, just 18 years of age, raced here in F2 and has scored in 3 consecutive Grand Prix weekends so far, going back to the sprint in Canada, then Monaco and Barcelona as well. So I think enjoying, Andrew, a fairly good rookie season so far for Lindblad.
Yes, solid so far. He's had a couple of really outstanding performances, one in Australia and one in Canada, and he's been decent. You know, he's within a few hundredths of Lawson on average in qualifying, but he's got to beat Lawson fundamentally, I think, to prove that he's deserving of a seat in Formula 1 long term. Or maybe he doesn't, because I think he's shown enough promise this year for them to at least give him another shot next year. But I think often with rookies what you see is you look for the peaks rather than the here's some Lindblad radio.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with confidence with his brakes. I feel like I have a lot of pulling. Copy.
Yeah, so he's only a few hundred. He's right behind Lawson, as you said, only a few hundredths adrift, but still struggling with the braking. But I would say, yeah, with rookies, the key thing is the highs. So like with Antonelli last year, we were discussing him a few minutes ago. He beat Russell in qualifying at Saudi Arabia, which is only the second or third race of the season. He put it on sprint pole in Miami early in the season. And then he had a couple of good results later in the year after that sort of mid-season slump. And Lindblad's had highs, big highs already. Points in Australia, as I say. His Canada weekend was very convincing, although he didn't start the Grand Prix itself because of a gearbox problem. That indicates good potential, but he's got to keep delivering on it.
Certainly does, but I think we've got ahead of the British Grand Prix next week. It's a really great place for British talent at the moment in Formula 1. Not only have we got obviously Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Lando Norris all challenging at the top, but you have the likes of Arvid Lindblad putting in a really solid rookie season so far. Sam, Ollie Behrman in his second season as well at Haas, and I know he races under the Thai flag, but he's London born for Alex Albon. Not as strong a season for Williams so far this year, but we know he's competitive when he's got the machinery.
Yeah, plenty of British talent will be on show, won't it, at the British Grand Prix, so really, really good stuff.
Yeah, always a highlight of the calendar. Austria almost feels like, for us at least, maybe a bit of a warm-up, but very different kinds of tracks though that we head to. This one a lot more stop and go, having to deal with a bit of altitude as well. That will affect how the power units perform here as well. First time the new power units with the 50-50 split for this season. That will change incrementally over the next couple of seasons, with internal combustion side of it increasing to eventually a 60-40 split in favour. Are you quite pleased that that's happened, Sam, over the next couple of years? That's what we're going to work towards?
Do you know what? I was going to bring this up. I definitely was going to bring this up because I think the last time I was on, I said that they needed to do that split.
Yeah.
I did say it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
And I think that they've listened to our podcast and gone, there's a man that knows what he's talking about. No, I think it's important for Formula One. I think fans, drivers, teams were not necessarily best pleased with the initial outlook of how this championship was going to pan out this year, with some of those lift points being so dramatic in Melbourne, and they've gone away, and I think it's the right thing for the sport.
Yeah, that will be implemented over the course of the next couple of years. We'll move slightly towards it for next season, and then by 2028 is the plan for 60-40 splits. Back on track into the last 6 minutes of final practice before we go qualifying later on today. Certainly looks like it's Kimi Antonelli and Mercedes with the most confidence, but Lewis Hamilton right there behind him. Same can't be said for Charles Leclerc, down in 7th at the moment, and 4/10 adrift.
Looks like he's struggling under braking in his Ferrari, and it's something that's kind of plagued him over the last couple of Grand Prix. He was unhappy in Monaco, obviously had that off towards the end of the race, but stated all through the weekend he was lost on braking. Canada was a little bit the same thing. Spain as well, he was behind Lewis. So Lewis now has had a good few races where he's been clearly the faster of the two Ferrari drivers and more comfortable with the car underneath him. But right now I would still say that Mercedes are by far my favourite for the front row going into qualifying. Their car looks the most consistent, probably the easiest to drive. Lewis has nailed that lap, but how much more has he got underneath him? Whereas Kimi Antonelli, I think he's still got a couple of tenths in the pocket.
And certainly has a couple of tenths over his teammate right now. Russell is looking to go again and see if he can improve. Piastri did get his soft tyre run in and went 4th fastest ahead of his teammate Lando Norris. The two McLarens not split by much though. Now that's the top 5. Verstappen just outside in 6th. Then comes Leclerc, Lawson, Hadjar and Lindblad. The top 10, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Bortoletto, Behrman and Colapinto. The top 15, the two Williams drivers, Sainz and Albon, 16th and 17th ahead of Ocon. Perez and Bottas, the top 20, with Alonso having just gone over the line, has moved up a position ahead of his teammate into 21st and is now boxed, with Lance Stroll bringing up the rear of the field in P22, 3.4 seconds adrift.
Do you think we could see another Rosberg-Hamilton-esque race between Antonelli and Russell tomorrow afternoon around this track? That'd be exciting.
It would be great. I just wonder if they're close enough for that to happen. If Antonelli is just quicker, and so they're not going to be. I mean, he's
certainly been quicker on one lap pace. Yep. I think George, at times in the races, has been very unlucky, but I think his race pace has been probably closer to Antonelli than his qualifying pace. I mean, that would be exciting, wouldn't it? It'd be
box office.
Absolutely box office if they were to go toe to toe in the race. Because I can imagine George will give no quarters.
And Toto ripping his hair out from the garage as well. But I just think, if you look at Barcelona, Russell really looked like he was bouncing back. Pole position, was quick. Antonelli actually was struggling for practice, wasn't quite getting in the rhythm of things, didn't qualify on the front row. But then during the race, Antonelli got up to the back of Russell and essentially cruised past him.
Yeah, but if George Russell has had that front wing issue, if they've gone too many turns on the front, as George Russell goes fastest, there we go.
There's a way of bouncing back.
If he had too many turns of the front wing, he's then going to have oversteer. Barcelona can be very, very hard on its tyre. That will give more surface temperature on the rear axle, and that will slow him down through the course of that final stint. Isaac Hadjar not happy?
What's happening turn 1 and turn 3? Like turn 3, like let's stop acting like I'm braking hard, okay? The thing just locks up completely.
Understood, Isaac.
I do so enjoy
his
Hadjar radio. So he's really not happy with turn 1 and 3. Turn 3, one of the heavier braking zones around the circuit, uphill. That's where we're seeing a lot of the lockups going on. It's actually where they were really struggling yesterday, particularly Hadjar, with that bit of lag from the turbo, not getting out of the corner as quickly as they would like. But Russell, to the top of the times, much better from him. 38 thousandths of a second clear of his teammate Antonelli, who's out there on track now and down on Russell through the first sector. It's actually Hamilton is the quickest first sector. Hamilton up on Russell through the first sector now, having another go at it. It's Russell, Antonelli and Hamilton, the top three as it currently stands. Leclerc's bringing himself into this as well. 4 thousandths of a second up on Russell's first sector, but they're actually all down on their previous bests.
Yeah, and Kimi Antonelli just a little bit shallow on the entry there into turn number 4. Wonder whether that's hurt him in the second sector. He was blindingly quick before, and yeah, he's a tenth and a half off now after sector 2. So I don't think this lap will be an improvement unless he pulls out another blinder in sector 3. No, and it looks like he's going to be boxing before the end of this lap.
Yeah, I think he's backed out of it, and into the pits he comes. Leclerc still pushing though, personal best in the middle sector. His teammate Hamilton will complete his lap. Let's see if there's an overall improvement. No, not at all for Hamilton. Ends up a second off his own best time. Leclerc though is pushing and to the line, improves his lap time but stays 7th.
Yeah, it's good homework to do the cool down and then go again, just to see if you can keep life in these tyres. But for now, it certainly looks like a first lap tyre.
Temperature 32.6 degrees, air temp that is, track temperature creeping towards 53 degrees.
That's nothing, Harry. On Thursday in Navarra in Spain, when I was testing with Nissan in the Formula E car, it was 62 degrees track temperature.
What was it in the cockpit?
Oh, a million.
Were you wearing a cooling vest?
No.
Come on.
No.
Heat hazard or not, no cooling vest for Sam Bird. Checker flag is out at the end of free practice 3, the final practice session of the weekend. And that's a bit more like it from George Russell, but my word, are the margins small. Russell fastest, a 1:07.096, and only with the fastest final sector. Norris taking the spoils in the middle sector, Hamilton fastest in the first sector. Antonelli couldn't improve on his second run. Second overall, with Hamilton, Piastri and Norris the top 5.
It's just that final sector where Russell has pulled an absolute blinder, nearly 2 tenths quicker than Antonelli. Just in that sector alone, the first 2 sectors, Antonelli was quicker by half a tenth in each sector. So yeah, a little bit of homework for Antonelli to do in that final sector. See where George Russell was quicker, and Lewis Hamilton there braking into turn 3 and running very deep and wide enough the circuit.
You can hear it before you see it. The wheels screeching, still pushing on the final lap. Then they'll head to the starting grid to do practice starts, because they're not actually allowed to do them from the pit lane here because of the way it's formatted, running up parallel towards turn 1 and then following round to the right. What's happened to Perez?
Oh, that's going to be such a bad flat spot on that front left tyre.
Oh yeah, same spot uphill towards turn 3. But the good news, at least for Cadillac, is a much cleaner session compared to yesterday, where neither car, after the first half an hour, was seen again, really. Perez down in 19th, ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Perez best time just under 2.5 seconds away from George Russell's quickest time then. So Russell fastest, a 1:07.0. Antonelli, Hamilton, Piastri, Norris the top 5, Verstappen 6th ahead of Leclerc, Hadjar, Lawson and Lindblad the top 10, so Racing Bulls looking strong in the midfield. Gasly ahead of Hülkenberg and Bortoleto, with Colapinto in 14th, just ahead of Oliver Behrman. Ocon was 16th ahead of the 2 Williams drivers, Sainz and Albon. Perez 19th, Bottas 20th, Alonso 21st and Lance Stroll in 22nd. So it's going to be a shootout for pole between the 2 Mercedes drivers later, Sam?
I would say so. I think that's what we're looking for, but it's going to be one heck of a fight.
Can Hamilton try and get between them? Even challenge? Looks like they've turned the wick up a little bit compared to yesterday.
So I would say right now it's Mercedes gunning for pole. However, if either McLaren driver or Hamilton do an absolute worldie of a lap, they could be in the shout as well.
It'll be exciting. What is the key to a perfect lap around the Red Bull Ring, Sam?
No mistakes. You cannot make any mistakes around this track, especially given the proximity of all the cars at the front. It's got to be absolutely clean and tidy, and mega exits, especially out of turn 1, turn 3, turn 4, and then fast as you like, high minimum speeds through 7, 8 and 9.
Just heard the sound of Lewis Hamilton on his practice start, and you can hear him locking up. We heard that already previously, up towards turn 3.
Yeah, locked up in 3 and locked the rears and need to check the gearbox. It said shift, but it said it was shifting, but I was in anti-stall.
So Hamilton just wanting the team to check all is okay with the gearbox there after that lock-up in turn 3. Red Bull at their home race look like they need to try and find something, if anything is doable, with Max Verstappen, the best of the Red Bull cars, in 6th, Hadjar down in 8th, only just ahead of the 2 Racing Bulls drivers. That's the sound of Lando Norris just finding his way off track at turn 1, I should say. Another uphill incline before you set yourself on a lap around this 4.3 kilometre circuit. Right, okay, I think we will leave it there for now, gents. Thank you very much, Andrew Benson. Thank you very much, Sam Bird. We are going to be back for qualifying at the Red Bull Ring ahead of the Austrian Grand Prix. You can hear it live on 5 Live, uninterrupted over on Sports Extra 3. We'll be on air just before 3 o'clock. The green light comes on for Q1 on the dot at 3 p.m. But it looks like the Mercedes are strong. Will they get pole? Find out later. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.